presentation.
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody, and I appreciate the fine turnout for today's meeting. I'm sure you will enjoy the program. We have so many people, it's going to take us a little longer today for self-introductions. And Chip, I always catch the person with his mouth full to start.
You succeeded again.
So let's start right here with Chip Hutchinson.
Chip Hutchinson, publisher of the Times Leader in Princeton.
Okay, let's go right down here then to Tate.
Taylor Smith with Edible Horizon before Business 24/7.
All right, Justin Ladd from Riversbend Retirement Community.
Jody Norwood with Airlake.
Cindy Riley with WCCI Radio in Calvert.
Joanne Bogle, Regional Class.
Tom Jones, don't know that.
Rebecca Fagan, Remax, Mandeville. Suzanne Duncan, Remax,
Don Outlaw with Remax Engine.
Allison Van Hooser with Farmers Bank.
Tim Beck, Edible Mall, Bowling Company, and CB and Crisis.
Trent Foe with Food Gun. Kartik Patel with the Relax Inn and Suites in Ottawa.
Sharon Adams, Calvin Men's.
Barkley Hudson with Farmers Bank in Princeton.
Michael Brow with Farmers Bank in Princeton.
And Michael just reminded me, I was a chamber dude with the Lake Barber Chamber. I'm fair. Okay, our program today on SizeUp is presented by Murray State and the Murray-Calloway County Chamber of Commerce. So Gina Winchester is Executive Director of the Office of Regional Outreach with Murray State. Chris Wooldridge is District Director of America's Small District Development Center. And Aaron is the Executive Director of the Chamber Dude with Murray-Calloway County Chamber of Commerce. So whoever would like to lead the program off, it's all yours. Jim Stott, by the way, our president back here, that I intentionally leave out every time. Is videotaping the program.
Well, now that we're on video.
And I get another paycheck, thank you very much.
Nice. I'll pass some of this out just so you guys can understand what we're doing and what SizeUp is. But first of all, my name is Aaron Dail. I'm literally the version of Farrell over in Murray and Calloway County. I've been there for about 2 years and working on pretty much the same things that you guys are working with him on and things involving the Chamber of Commerce. For me, one of the areas that we try to focus on and have focused on in Murray is helping businesses use data to make decisions. Whether that's why you should charge $5 for a product, why you should move your business to this location, why you should advertise with the paper or with the radio or in another channel or medium. All that data, all those pieces of information go into making some sort of decision. And those decisions have an impact on you as a business owner, you as a lender, you as a financial institution who holds accounts for people, you as an advertiser. All those decisions are very interdependent. So SizeUp is a product that will help people be able to do that. And it started as a conversation with our office trying to do this very same thing, figure out how to help businesses use data. We have the opportunity to partner with different groups to pull some of that data, but at the same time, it's really difficult to understand it. How do you action item that data? So what I gave you is just a real quick summary of what SizeUp is and what it can do. SizeUp is essentially a digital tool that Farrell has jumped on to provide you all as chamber members, the business community, and frankly the community in general. So you can use that kind of data to make decisions. When we started this path as a chamber in Murray, we were looking at a small area. We looked at this as an opportunity. So we looked at Calloway County, Graves, Marshall, Henry County in Tennessee, because that's really our trade area, where many of our businesses go back and forth and do any kind of commerce. It quickly ballooned into a statewide conversation. I sit on the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce Executives Board of Directors, and we were talking about this, and they said, how can we do this at the statewide level? What does that even mean? Well, what that means now, as we've made that decision to do this, is that you or anybody within a Chamber of Commerce can have access to this tool dramatically cheaper than it could be before. This is typically a $5,000 tool. Bowling Green was paying $5,000 for this. We got it dramatically dropped down thanks to a partnership with the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce executives and with Murray State's Regional Outreach Office. So that has allowed myself, our office, Farrell, and many other chambers across the state to be able to offer this to chamber members. One, as a thought leader, to make sure you all as business owners and people involved in business understand this kind of data is out there, because large companies and corporate companies use it. I use the example of Target. Everybody in Western Kentucky wants a Target somewhere close by, really close. Well, Target uses this kind of data to make pricing decisions and to make customer pricing decisions, to give customers information about products that they offer in their store. So a quick story of how this kind of data was used, and it's more of a funny story than anything else. There was a teenage female who was in a Target and bought a couple of items with a credit card that she had through her family. And all of a sudden she started getting things in the mail addressed to her, but specifically for certain things around pregnancy. And she hadn't bought anything that signified that she was pregnant. Her parents were really mad at Target for sending that kind of information to them, or to her specifically. And so the father called Target and said, "Why are you sending my 17-year-old, wherever her age was, daughter information about pregnancy?" And they said, well, after a long conversation, based on the products that she was purchasing on this credit card, it triggers, there's an algorithm that says she is most likely in the process of or going to either be pregnant or setting up to be pregnant. And sure enough, it was true. After this conversation, I'm sure a very awkward or tough conversation from the dad to the daughter. But what Target was doing was using data to price themselves, to market themselves, to get in front of a customer who was buying a certain kind of product. And in the retail world, that's called psychographics. It sounds scary, it sounds crazy, but it's why I have a subscription to Men's Health versus another person who may have it to an outdoor and fishing magazine, and why my purchasing patterns are different than that other person's. So long story short, SizeUp now provides that kind of data, analytics, and opportunities for you all, thanks to Farrell, and thanks to the board for making that decision. What it does is it puts it in a user-friendly format. This data is out there, it is extremely hard to get, it is very expensive to get, and I think even more difficult to try to dissect and understand without it being in a user-friendly format. So if you're looking at this sort of packet, you can tell how this tool is used. It's really four main areas: to benchmark your business, to be able to tell, okay, I own a hotel, I run a hotel, how do I compare with people that are in my same market, or how do I compare to the hotels in Murray, or in Lexington, or in other places across the state? Since there's a statewide partnership, you can do that. And since the statewide organization and Murray State's Regional Outreach Office came to the table, made it even easier and cheaper for you all to participate and look at this. So without diving into the tool itself, without showing you a demo, this is just a first-hand look of what's coming. And Farrell jumped on this very quickly and pitched it obviously to the board for a decision, but it's in the process of being built. So this tool will be available ASAP, is what I've been told, and you will then be able to use it. I don't know how it's going to be structured, what website it's going to be on for you all, but it's strictly for you to use. And you can dissect your market here. You can look at Paducah. You can look at surrounding communities. You can look at communities in the eastern part of the state, and you can look at Calloway County, just to compare and contrast different opportunities that you have. Now, that's a lot of information. It's drinking from a fire hose, so how do you action item that data? That's where Chris Wooldridge's office is going to come into play and help. So thanks to Gina and Chris, through this conversation, they were able to, one, make it financially feasible for you all as a chamber group, for us and others across the state to actually have this. And secondly, to provide some support around it. because it's really easy to look at this and go, oh, it's a cool tool. I can figure out how many 21 to 29-year-olds are in our community and what they spend on apparel. That's kind of a cool statistic to know, but what do you do with it? How do you make that into a business decision? And that's where Chris's office will be able to help with that, and there's a grant program that Gina's office runs, and they've provided some support to make that available for you all through this. So, long story short, SizeUp is a local business intelligence tool. Picture Google Maps meets business data. And putting those two together will hopefully allow you to make an informed business decision. It won't tell you where to make the best money or where the most money is. It can in some areas on certain expenditures, but it's just one of those tools that you can add to your tool belt and work with the chamber on making sure that you're growing your business and staying competitive, but also increasing the quality of information that you have access to. So that's sort of SizeUp in a nutshell. And really the opportunity is already there. It's happening right now. Farrell has been very much involved in that conversation, so I commend you for taking the leap of faith to do that and to put this out as a huge opportunity for you. I've got people in my community asking, when is this coming? We want it yesterday. A lot of retailers are wanting this kind of information specifically, but churches want access to it because they want to see where they're missing out on their congregation. Is there a certain group that they want to market to? Is there a certain group in the community that they want to go talk with? It'll show competitors, it'll show suppliers. If you have a hardware store and you need a better price on nails, they'll show you all the places that provide that, and you can then call them and say, I need 6 cents off on a price that I'm paying right now, can you do that for me? When you buy 10,000 boxes of nails over the course of a year, that's going to change how you do business and how you can do business. So that's SizeUp. And then I want to let Gina and Chris kind of come up and talk about how their role in this has evolved and kind of come to fruition. Honestly, these two have helped us make this a reality, both from a consultative perspective for Chris's office to come in and help you use the data, but also for Gina, who has really seen this as a huge investment opportunity. And I think 14 of 18 counties in Murray State Regional Outreach area have adopted this. So it's coming, it's happening, and it's a huge wave of opportunity. So I'll be quiet and I'll answer questions at some point whenever you guys want to. We can definitely do that. But I guess I'll let Chris kind of come up here, or whoever wants to come next and explain a little bit more. But thank you for just obviously the partnership, Farrell, and I'll definitely sit for questions when we get finished and wrapping up.
Well, thanks, Aaron, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you as well for having us today and the opportunity to kind of share this information with you. We're very excited about the partnership. We're very excited about this tool. This particular tool, as Aaron mentioned, is typically very expensive. Historically, it's been very hard to find. Geographic, demographic, and demographic information about your customers, your suppliers, and your competitors typically is difficult to find. Okay. Over the years, technology has advanced to the point where that information can be compiled much easier than it has been in the past. It can be assimilated, it can be packaged for user friendliness, if you will. And from a geographic information systems approach, which is what this is, it's taking that geographic, psychographic, and demographic information and putting it in a tool that a business owner can make a good decision in terms of whether they want to expand their business or where they want to grow their business. Excuse me. My role is as district director of the KSBDC. We're an outreach program for the College of Business, and we're a member of the Kentucky Small Business Development Center Network. This is my old banner, so this is the green and black one. The new one is the new logo, America's SBDC. We're joining a national branding program to put SBDCs out in the forefront more so. We're located in every university in the state from an SBDC standpoint. Okay, my particular program is housed at Murray State University, and we cover 24 counties, so Owensboro, South Dakota County, all the way to Fulton. We have 5 offices, and out of those offices, we're going to be providing training to the chambers at the initial rollout and being able to really dive into how we can take this information and apply it to an existing business or to a startup business. Okay. And then after that, we continue to work one-on-one with businesses, again, whether they're pre-entrepreneurs or existing entrepreneurs, and how do I take this information and apply it to my business. One of the number one things that we're going to be looking at on an individual basis with our clients is how do we take this information and roll it into a business plan, especially from a startup, okay? Because we are able to look and use this information, as Aaron mentioned, to look at where your competitors are, look at what your competition is doing in terms of volume, looking at where your clients are going to be, your customers are going to be, and where your suppliers are going to be. And all that has impact on your costs and your revenue. Being able to take a business that maybe wants to start on one side of town, and we put in the demographic information of age and salary and marital status and all those things, we may find that that group isn't really located where we want to be. Maybe it's on the other side of town. Maybe we need to look at a location on another side of town. And as a realtor, that's a good opportunity to sell that small business person on maybe a location that they really need to be in, so you can access that information and say, well, this is a really great spot, cost-wise, but location-wise, it's really not close to where your target market's going to be. You can look at your industry and find where your customers are from an industry standpoint. Typically, for a particular industry, it tends to be this gender, or it's this salary range, or it's this marital status. And we can look at that and find in each different community not only where those people are, or what their propensity to purchase is. So I don't want to go into too much detail, I don't want to give a whole class on it, but that's the idea, is that we're going to be able to work with each individual chamber through the support of Gina's office, providing funding for training on an initial rollout of the program, and then on an individual basis dealing with clients one-on-one. It's a ton of information. It's going to be really good, and I think that you're going to really appreciate the chamber willing to step up and get involved in this, because it really takes your community to a whole different level in terms of access of information and decision making. It puts a lot of tools in your hand, and it really could be a game changer, in my opinion, for your economic development and for the businesses that you recruit, especially if you're trying to recruit a small business or another business out of, from somewhere else, to say this is what our client typically looks like. You know, we've been in business for 10 years. We're thinking about moving to maybe another office in your location. Well, this is typically what our customer looks like, or what their purchasing patterns are. How in your community would this business fit? And so you're able to mine that information and develop it that way. So, won't give a class, although I can talk long, so I'm going to be quiet, but it's a great opportunity. We thank you for the opportunity and look forward to working with your community and doing that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Gina, and she'll explain her involvement in the initiative.
Do I dare say they saved the best for last?
Of course, always.
I just want to say thank you to Viral. One, I kind of tagged along with these two guys. They were the actual program, and when I found out where they were coming, I was like, can I go too? So my role with the Office of Regional Outreach for Murray State University basically is to cover our 18 county service region, which is what Murray State University as a regional public institution has been deemed by the Council on Post-Secondary Education to do, is to help take the resources of that educational institution out to that service region. Obviously, we are higher education, so teaching is our first and foremost mission, but in addition to teaching, there are a lot of other things that a public regional institution can do, such as provide services, such as what you heard Chris share in the Small Business Development Center work, as well as we have faculty who have areas of expertise in research and development. And what's interesting with my work, as I've been in this role for about 7 or 8 years now, is how dynamic those requests are that come to us from the region. We have worked a lot with our K-12 population, so we have a lot of educators, work with superintendents, principals in those communities that ask for the university to help in everything from increasing their ACT scores to bringing cultural activities and events to the communities. So we have a lot of varied and different projects. But many of those projects are also centered around economic development. And so when we looked at this opportunity, when Aaron found the tool, what was interesting is we actually had a tool on Murray State's campus that our professors were using in a class with students. But it was, as Chris said, such a tedious and time-consuming tool to use. It just wasn't user-friendly to be able to take that to a business and to sit down with that business and to work through all the dynamics of getting that information. So when this tool became available, and Aaron definitely jumped on it on behalf of the Murray Calloway County Chamber, then started looking at how could we offset the cost, because it was a very expensive tool. he shared it with me, he shared it with the Kentucky Chamber. We kind of all came together as partners, and that's really where we have our biggest impact, is when we work together as partners. So I thank you all as a chamber for getting involved and being one of those partners. As he said, we have 14 counties that will be involved in this economic development project, and we're really excited to see what it has to do to offer you all that economic advantage. And I guess kind of a second and a side outcome to that for us as a regional public institution is, as I work with communities, and many of those communities have been going through the Work Ready certification process, we talk about this educational attainment piece. And the problem that we're bumping into in several of our counties is the fact that we do not have enough individuals with credentials, with whether it's certifications, GEDs, 2-year associate's degrees, 4-year degrees. We do not have enough of those to be able to apply for those work-ready certifications. Well, the problem is the people who are going to school and getting that education, many of those are young people and they're not staying. So when we go through that census data and we look, we've lost them. They've grown up here, they've got their education somewhere else, and then they've moved away. So we want to be able to help populate back those students as they're getting that education through economic development. So as you all increase your businesses, as you hire more students, as we look at ways to get those students involved early on in internships and apprenticeships and getting them engaged in that workforce early on, that will definitely impact what we do in the future and what we'll be able to do in Western Kentucky. We also partner with other entities across the state, such as the Kentucky Chamber. This is one project, but we've had others in the past. One of those that you may have or may not have heard about was the Principal Leadership Program. We started actually hosting sessions for our superintendents and principals here in Lyon County at the West Kentucky Educational Co-op. We did that for 2 years. We seed funded it through the grant money that's available through my office. And it became so popular that the Kentucky State Chamber said, hey, this is great, we want to take this across the state. And so they are now picking that up through the Principal Leadership Program that many of the principals have been able to take advantage of. So we do work with entities across the state. The Kentucky Chamber has been a great partner. I'll also put a plug in because I sit on the board of Leadership Kentucky. So I'm a graduate of the class of 2011. I think I heard somebody say they were in that class this year. So if you ever have an opportunity to go through a leadership program, either locally or on the statewide level, please take advantage of that opportunity because it's a great, great thing to do. So with that, I will stop and let you all ask questions of any of us.
So what, yeah, questions, just kind of open, this is almost kitchen table talk now.
What's your timeline on rolling this out? When would we be able to possibly, 6 months, 3 months?
Oh, no, they're ready to go right now. They're waiting, they being the engineers, so to speak, on people signing up. And so as soon as someone signs up, we send that information in. So they already know that your chamber here is doing it, so they're in the process of building it. When I say build it, what they do is they pick a central point that it pulls from automatically, so it's kind of your home base. So in Calloway County, Murray is ours. So when we pull it up, it's right where you can easily access Murray data, but I can still go and pull Louisville and all these other places. But they said 30 days from when someone signs up to it, where you can turn it on and rock and roll.
So the Murray Chamber is live now, is that correct?
Yes, so us and about 4 others really jumped on it fast, so we went ahead and sent it in. So we got the code, source code, basically put it on a website yesterday. And you can go, you can test ours if you want and look at it. It is still formatting, we're trying to get it to be on our website the way we want it to be. But as soon as they get it done, I forward that over to Farrell and it gets put on y'all's website.
And you mentioned the costs were significantly reduced, so what are the costs?
So I'm assuming for you guys to participate, it was $500 a year and that's down from $5,000. So that's the power of the statewide group stepping up and saying this is a value. And Murray State coming to the table is also paying for 80% of that. So really it's $100 for the first year, and then after that it's $500 annually.
Let's be sure she understood what you said. That's for the chamber as a whole.
Right.
And, Mr. President, you
Yes,
got here with us, just wanted to like. Now, your board of directors is committed to providing you with the best bang for your bucks for your chamber dues. I mean, this is a question that Aaron and I face every day, and you probably ask yourself, and that is, what do I really get from the Chamber of Commerce for the dues that I pay? And, you know, we've been focusing on 2 or 3 different things here the last year, but this one could be very, very valuable too. And Chris, I want to review just a little bit what you said, because you answered my questions. And my questions had to do with hands-on assistance with the program. But as I understand it, you're going to train, quote, the chamber, meaning me or committee or something like that. And then that you would also provide hands-on assistance to the individuals that may try to use the product, is that correct?
Yes. Of course, we provide consulting. That's our role as an outreach program. We meet with individual businesses on a one-on-one basis. Our consulting is free. And so from the standpoint of meeting with business clients, we've been doing that since 1981. And as a confidential service, it's providing consulting from market planning, business planning, feasibility studies, you name it, we put it together and we provide that. What this tool does specifically is this puts in your hands GIS information that prior to this tool, we pulled through a university program that was tons of information. It was just tons of information. Great information, but again, it's a lot to consume. And so as a small business owner, handing you a ream of paper and saying, here's all the demographic, psychographic, geographic information you need to make some good decisions, what this tool is going to provide you is the same type of information in a user-friendly format. Now, you pull this and you say, this is really cool, but I have no idea how to apply this to my business. What does this mean? Well, that's where we sit down with you and say, well, let's talk about what it means. This says that your business, and we look at your financials, or we have interviews with you, we talk with you on a consulting basis and say, who comes into your shop? What are your customers? Who are your ideal customers? Who normally comes to you? Well, I'm a toy retailer, and most of my customers are young families with young children or grandparents. Great, so now we've got a demographic already in place. We know ages, we know probable income levels, and then so we can take that information and we look at it from this report and say, where are those folks? And how many folks are there? Are you penetrating into 10% of that population in your market zone? Are you touching all of them? Or I want to grow my toy store business, so I'm going to move to Hittyville and I'm going to open a store. I'm in Paducah now. Well, great. What are typically your climates? So we sit there and we provide it. We take that information and make it how it applies to you, your decision making, and how you make decisions on spending money, hiring people, how you're going to market. We provide marketing assistance as well. We've got a person that does logos, advertising, marketing materials to get small businesses started. Now we don't compete with existing businesses, but we'll help a small business get started and develop logos and those kind of things, and then they can hand it off to a private company to take it from there. But we try to get them established, and this is some of that information. Maybe we're looking at how to market and promote it in particular.
Carol, I would recommend, and Aaron and I have talked about this, once you get the tool on your site, it might be a good idea to schedule like a weekend or a night workshop for those who are interested, just to give them an overview of how the tool works. And that's where the extra money is going to come in for us to come and do that.
The other side of that is the training.
You would, or somebody in your office
Yes.
would facilitate that.
So basically, you're going to say, Chris, we're going to roll out the tool. When can you come? When can you all come? And we're going to have you may invite all of the chamber members in for one evening's presentation. And so you're going to roll it out to all the chamber members. We're going to be there, or I'll be there to kind of help walk us through. Here's why this is important and how you apply it. And so everybody kind of gets a look at it from a chamber member standpoint, or from the community, or whoever you want to roll it out to. And then so we're going through that training program so they can go through it. We're looking at maybe doing a webinar maybe that evening, walk through a webinar, and then after that take questions, how we can apply it, etc. So it's kind of a two-phase. When that chamber is ready to roll it out, is ready to have an event, that's the training. That's kind of that's the fire hose. And then after that, it's on an individual basis. So a business comes in and says, I went to your website, I pulled this information, Carol, I need some help. Great, here's his phone number, call Chris, and then we set up a meeting with either me or one of the consultants.
And the ongoing support that the Kentucky Chamber negotiated with SizeUp are ongoing support. So they will produce 4 quarterly webinars. So it'll be, let's just say, August 15th this year and December 13th. So you'll already know in advance, and it'll be a statewide webinar. They'll explain walking through the tool. They're also creating sort of how-to videos. So it can be put on a website, shared via social media, that kind of thing, on how to use the tool for specific areas. An example of the tool being used by a student at Murray State, Decatur, Illinois has this tool. Their city actually uses it. And he was interviewing for a job in Decatur, Illinois. Well, he used SizeUp to figure out the market rate for the job that he was going after and ask for a higher salary. Because his mindset going in was a certain level, and in actuality it was commanding more based on the area. So he got paid more because of that. And that is a small story from a student at Murray State in the telecom sort of area using that kind of tool. And it was just sheer luck that we were able to find that story because of our relationship that we had with Decatur, Illinois, and the SizeUp program in general. So it can do some pretty creative things, but more importantly, the biggest thing that we wanted to do is provide access to it. Because it's all floating around up there in the cloud or online, all these other places, but it's not user-friendly and it's not intuitive. Facebook is user-friendly and intuitive, and you know it when you feel it. You can kind of walk through it very easily. That's what SizeUp has done, and that's their competitive advantage, is that they built this tool to be able to help us, help you use the data that's going to help make a business decision.
Okay, I kind of jumped in. Were there other questions around the room? We know so little, it's hard to ask questions. Or I'll speak for myself.
I have a question. It seems like a lot of it is geared towards retail. How would it affect, like, with our office, we are mainly waterfront property sales. So does it help us to find where the clients are and where to advertise outside this area?
Yes, so you could, and I'll back up and explain a little bit. Are you talking from a who would buy a waterfront property and development perspective?
Where do people come from? Are they
Where
coming
they
from
come from?
Evansville?
I guess that's where I'm looking.
To buy a waterfront property. We get people from Chicago, from Evansville, Paducah, St. Louis. But is there information here that would tell us where most of them come from and where we should advertise?
Yes, it'll tell you where to advertise. It will give you an opportunity to kind of understand that. Now, it won't say Aaron Dail from St. Louis, Missouri bought XYZ property. It's almost a non-existent data point. But what it will do is pull public and private records that are, at least through SizeUp, available and out there. So you'll know over the past year, X amount of pieces of property or X amount of people have moved into an area, and here are their demographics. So if it's a 49 to 59-year-old male who makes X amount of income, that is kind of the demographic that you would use. But and I can't speak to if you can, market to people in Chicago or other places, because it only pulls Kentucky data. It just doesn't, that's outside the scope of what it would do. But knowing who that target customer is means that you would make pieces or marketing pieces tailored to it. So putting up Facebook ads targeting Chicago, Illinois, or a certain demographic in Chicago, Illinois, would be an action point that you could be able to use, and SizeUp could be able to tell you at least what that data is based on a location. So you can triangulate north side of town, south side of town, who lives there, what kind of trade is going on there. It'll produce labor force data. So if I'm an economic developer, I want to make sure I'm going to put my next company in this community, I need to showcase the labor force that's here. Now, they're going to have other tools as well, but this is just one more thing for them to be able to use too.
Will the tool be able to project or have forecasts for what certain business trends are going to be?
See, okay, so that's where the limitation of the tool is. Esri is what they were talking about as the really complex tool. The TVA uses that as well. I can't remember if you are in the TVA region or not, but you can pull that kind of data from them. We did that, but SizeUp won't pull a propensity report, which a propensity report is what are the products and services that have the highest likelihood of being purchased. So in our community, a savings account geared towards a 65 and older population had a very low propensity. A high propensity item was this sort of beer called microbrewed Catamount beer. It had 790% likelihood of being purchased, which translated into a microbrewery. Paducah just built 3 or 2. There are people in our community looking to do the very same thing. So it just, that kind of access to that kind of data, SizeUp won't necessarily give you propensity reports on that, but it will show previous expenditures. So you can figure out how many people bought alcoholic beverages, or at least in a general sense, from last year and even previous years as well through that report.
But to add on to that, where we can take that report, we can build on that report by running other market research. So through the SBDC program, we can pull different market industry reports like First Research or IBIS or some of those others that we can actually sit down and build a forecast based on the information from the GIS system, from the SizeUp tool, from the market and industry analysis, as well as any historical financials. So maybe we've got an existing business. Maybe we can look at what its trends are. We can take the financial spreads of a business that's already in business. We can look at those financial statements, and just like a bank, we're going to spread those numbers, look for the profitability trends, leverage trends, sales trends, profit margins, cost of good margins, all of those things. And so the tool itself isn't going to say, well, you need to go this because in 3 years you're going to be here. But what we can do is take that tool plus what else we could marry with it and make a reasonable projection as to this is where we think you're going to be in 12, 24, 36 months for a particular type of business.
Is it safe to say these are primarily credit transactions?
No.
I wondered about that, the data.
No, it's pulled from multiple.
Yeah, it's pulled from 3 big buckets. That was a major question that I had on the very beginning. One is from just a proprietary standpoint. If I'm a business owner and I put my information in there, where does it go? Does it stay? Is it calculated? Is it kept? It is not. It is strictly yours, and it disappears once you click out of the program. But no, it's done from IRS records, courthouse records, and the public side of things that anybody can get access to. It's just tedious to get it. And then SizeUp, or GIS Planning is the name of the company, Esri, Buxton, those companies have proprietary means of gathering that data. So it's everything from the white pages, yellow pages, making phone calls, dissecting other algorithms that they have. It's why when you go on Google and you search something, an ad pops up, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I looked for fishing equipment, and now I see ads for fishing equipment. It's that kind of mentality that they're using to be able to find that data for people to access.
So the cash transactions could have been picked up via the little discount cards many chains give you.
Yes.
Perhaps, okay.
They're also going to pick it up in financial disclosures. IRS is going to wipe. Of course, they purge all identifiable, specific identifiable information. If you look on your business tax returns, you're going to see that 6-digit code up there, an A6 code. An A6 code is the code that the IRS pulls. That code means something. It's industry specific. And so when they say, we want to pull everything that's happening in the automobile industry, they'll pull that NASIC number. It has nothing to do with your name. It'll have your location. It'll have those things, but it's specific person. It purges all of that. So they can look for every year what that NASIC number, which is that industry, that information gets done. Census data gets done. Census is a huge basis on which a lot of this stuff is built on. If you go to census.gov, you can pull information as well. It's a great database, and it's more user-friendly than it has been. But what SizeUp is doing is taking census, and it's taking the IRS, and it's taking things such as if you fill out a warranty card for Sears, okay? Sears has now information. Well, it's going to purge your personal information, and it's going to make that information available for purchase. So Buxton and Esri and SizeUp are going to buy that information and say, we're going to be able to build a demographic, a psychographic, and a geographic picture of who sent in your warranty card. think of all the information that you provide day in and day out, things you fill out, things that you swipe, everything that's electronically capturable, and even those things that aren't, like handwritten IRS forms that end up being somehow electronically captured. All that information is purged, it's built on a census basis platform, and then it's just populated. And it's kind of makes you think of Matrix almost. I mean, it's just a huge compilation of information, but it's in a good way because it's purged that information that would be identifiable to you. But what it is it's giving you the information to make good decisions on where you want to go and what you want to sell, and especially the competitor part. The competitor part is really cool because you can drop a pin and see who's like you in a certain area. Maybe there's a concentration of competitors in an area that aren't using GIS information, and there's a whole customer base over here. Maybe I can get over there and mine that for 12, 18, 24 months and really make some big profits. One of the examples we saw, I think we looked at Miami, Florida, or Fort Lauderdale, where there was a concentration in one particular area. There was some opportunities on the other side of the community. We take a community size in Miami, a lot of folks in there. So there was some business left on the table. And so they were able to move to a quick location. And that's the kind of thing we want to look at, is being able to make good decisions and just having that information deciding, well, none of that matters to me, but that's really worthwhile to know. And then how do I incorporate that in my business model and increase the success?
Okay, we've got a couple of minutes to wrap it up. Anybody else?
What's the biggest difference between like your rural areas? Is it gonna benefit us versus a bigger place like Lexington, Kentucky?
I guess it just depends on who's using the tool. In a rural community, it can be more powerful than a metro area. In a metro area, it's all about competitors, where they are and how you price yourself. In a rural area, it may be, why do we need to be on this street? Or why do we need to keep our business here versus move to another community or expand to another community? So it just depends. I know that's not a very good answer, but I think access to the data is crucial because there are people accessing it in large metro areas that pay $15,000 a year to do this kind of stuff. And 99% of small businesses are not going to do that. Target, Walmart, all these big companies will do it, and then they will competitively create an advantage that they have. An accounting firm in Murray, Kentucky, maybe not has access to that data, so what do they need to do and how do they use it? That's where we're partnering with Chris's office to make sure it's actionable. So like you said, it's a cool tool, it gives you cool data, but what change do I make in my behavior as a business owner to do that? So I think so. I mean, Fulton County, Hickman, I mean, all the way in the western part of the state, they valued it enough to try it, test it out, and to see what they can do. From a business retention standpoint, it's a huge tool, but from a business recruitment standpoint, it's a big tool. And not to recruit like Chick-fil-A. They're gonna figure out where they wanna go on their own, but to recruit the next 30, 40, 50 person employer that's a small group that maybe wants to expand, like Burrito Shack in Murray expanded to Paducah, Ribbon Chicks in Murray expanded to Paducah. They could have used a tool like that to be able to understand their market and where they need to go quicker and faster. And that's what we wanted to create, was that access to it.
If somebody comes to your chamber and says, I want to start a restaurant, how do we know it's survivable? How do we know it's going to make it? Well, if we look at that restaurant and we said, what is your target market? And my target market is this. Okay? We only have 2 restaurants in town. We need a third. How do we know we need it? So we run the demographic information. We can look at that and say, is there a base there to do it? Is it an underserved market? And so for our smaller communities, it's an absolute must. We have to create jobs to continue our communities. We all live here because we want to, for the quality of life. And so any information that we can have at our disposal to help us make good decisions, whether it's to keep existing businesses that are here or develop new businesses to create jobs, is a good thing. Just like Aaron said, we've got businesses throughout West Kentucky that are seeking to grow, and so another smaller community may be where they go. It may be to the next larger community. And so when they make that jump, they want to be able to increase their chances of success, and by having good information, they can make that decision.
Let's let Carter get his question in here.
Quick question, it's kind of following on her question. Based on how long this program has been out, what industry has it affected the most, like as far as benefiting, whether it be the restaurant industry or the health and fitness industry or the hospitality industry? Who sees the most benefit, or have y'all even been able to capture any of that data?
It hadn't been out that long.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about 2 years old. So I would say it impacts small business, period. And it just depends on the business and who uses it and how effective they are at partnering with a group to understand it and use it. But small business in general, and by small business, I mean anybody below 50 employees, but we all know there's a lot more small businesses than there are large.
This is truly a revolutionary approach to business making decisions. Because this is information that has not been typically available before the last 5, 6, 10 years to small businesses. As Aaron said, major franchises, they pay big bucks to get this. The program that we run through the university, we don't run those for everyone because it costs to run it, and there's so much information. So you would run that information for a city or for a county or for some kind of maybe an EDC project or something along those lines, because it's so much information and it's expensive to pull. You just haven't had access to that. The cost has been a barrier, the access has been a barrier. At this point, it's new, so there's success stories that are developing, but it's just now starting to become available through these kinds of channels to small businesses to say, I've never been able to find that information, or it's taken me forever, or I've had to write a huge check to get that. So now it's easily accessible, it's priced very well, and it's some of the key information you need to say, I think I need to go here, but I'm not sure. Well, now we can be much more sure that I have a customer base there or not, or I'm about to step into a competitor that's going to drive my prices down and kill my margins, or it's wide open. And so those kinds of things are now available to a much larger pool of folks making business decisions than it is to a multi-million-dollar corporation or a multi-billion-dollar franchise.
In a company, I'll just make one last point, that is based in Draftonville, is looking to potentially open a second location in Murray. They're a fitness sort of oriented business. They could have used this tool to figure out they should have been in Murray about 3 years ago.
Maybe.
Yes. I mean, and just those kind of decisions that are crucial to doing that. And I know that's, for us, is a huge opportunity, but also that data is something that you want access to and know, man, that'd be great.
Jim, got anything, Mr. President?
You're doing good. Keep it up.
Okay, all right. Before we get out of here, did everybody get on our sign-in sheet? If you didn't, please do, because we intend to sell that to you guys for
Gina's got the money, so
I'll tell you, no, here's why. There is a broad cross-section of businesses in the room. We're going to start right here with the newspaper. We have education here. We have cell phone, phone service. We have a retirement center, children's center, a conglomeration thing. Another newspaper, a radio, construction glass, bank, real estate, bank, developer, grocery store, among other things, hotel, hospital, and another banker. So you really have a broad cross-section. But that's one reason I want to give you that sign-in sheet so you can see. Okay. Any parting words from anybody? See you next time.